Hey, honeys, welcome back to the Honey Pod. We've only got 2 more episodes left for this season, so if you've been loving this space, head over to our Patreon for mental health tools that you can actually use and simple legal guidance for entrepreneurs, creatives, and my fellow newsies navigating a very challenging industry. Just scan that QR code on your screen. All right, well, let's get into today's conversation. This is Billy Floyd. We met in Albany, New York during a very pivotal season in my life. Billy was one of the first people who showed me how to build a podcast from the ground up. He had just left the news industry himself and was figuring things out alongside me. Check it out.
When we connected back in 2021 and you wanted to get into podcasting, you wanted to explore life beyond just being on news, it was so sick for me to give my 2 cents because at the time I had just left news and I had been podcasting, doing social media content. And it's very rare, as you know, to come across people that want to go the extra mile to do big things beyond just what they are doing right now.
You were in the newsroom, you left news, and like you said, when we linked up, you were just getting out of news. You had this great energy. You were doing a lot of these things that I was like, wait, there's a life after news? Like, I didn't know what that looked like.
Well, I was very grateful, Paulina, to always have just like the best role models in my life. And I always take the time to sit there and appreciate where I came from, what I've been around, and what I've been able to learn. I mean, my grandfather, Ernie Anastas, was a long time, 50 plus year veteran, news anchor, reporter, personality in New York City who just led with pure positivity, pure greatness, pure enthusiasm for life. And that's what I saw growing up as a young buck. And then my father, Greg Floyd, who is retiring at the end of this year, he's been a news veteran for 45 years in the Albany market, literally covering the hardest breaking stories while still somehow, some way making all this time to coach my baseball teams, rebound for me on the basketball court, drive my sister to all these different dance recitals and shows and whatnot. So when you have, my grandfather and my father both in news, both working their asses off while still being the greatest family men ever, plus you have my mom, my grandmother and other grandmother on both my mom and dad's side that just lead with like this sense of love, sense of positivity. It's just been instilled in me from the beginning, and I can't change anybody by telling them like live positively, live to be who you are, because you can't change anybody. But all I can do is lead by example, right? So I'm going to tell
Yeah.
people how I feel. I'm going to tell people how great they look or how incredible they are, or man, what you're doing is beyond special. Can I help? Here's my 2 cents. You want to talk about what I'm talking about? Go for it. I just want to lead that way. And then if people get it and understand it, want to be a part of it, jump right in. The floor is yours. But I can't like force that mindset on people because as we know, we live in a world where a lot of people kind of, play victim. It's tough. I get it. It's a very challenging world and people will succumb to the fears, the nervousness, the doubts. But we lead with positivity. You're clearly on that same exact path. And that's why we were able to connect. We were able to develop this friendship. And no matter how long we go without, talking, touching base, like we're always supporting each other on social media, always clapping for each
Yeah.
other, always leaving nice comments. And those are the relationships that I really cherish. And I'm really just appreciative overall for what we're doing here, what we're going to do beyond this, and just all the beauty that we share together and share with other people.
Let's talk about your news career because I think, again, before we started recording, we kind of talked a little bit about kind of what the news industry does to us. It's hard to stay positive in news. It is hard when you're inundated with so much negativity. And when I left, in Albany, I was still reeling from my divorce and I was still trying to pick the pieces back up. And I didn't know who I was, honestly, when I was in that newsroom, when I was leaving that newsroom. And I think the podcast was the only thing that I had that was like, this feels safe. This little group of people that I have that have surrounded me to talk about mental health and to really talk about these issues that we go through, whether you're a news anchor or you're a person, the barista at your Starbucks, like we all go through the same problems. And so it's nice that now that, we're you're back in news and we can talk about that. But now being so far removed from that, I think it's also nice to reflect back on kind of what that newsroom dynamic was like, because it is hard to stay positive while we're going through it.
Yeah, my path in news was very unorthodox, very different than the typical journalist. So when I was graduating college or when I was kind of going into my final year, had a realization of like, okay, for the past however many years, I had a lot of fun at school. I have great friends. I played a lot of basketball. The experience was a blast, but I really don't know what I'm going to do with my career. But then I thought to myself, I love doing my best to be on camera. I love making a difference. I love being a positive influence. My grandfather, my father, they are these big time news anchors. They get the job done. They love it. If it's in my family, I got to be able to do this as well. Like, there's no way I can't make this happen. So, going into my second semester of senior year, I was making all these different videos, compiling reels, and making like this one big reel that I would send out to stations. And I got rejected from probably 200 or so stations. And when I say rejected, I mean probably five actual rejections and then like 195
Ghosting.
no responses. Like, it was a complete disaster, a complete joke. Like, talk about trying to stay positive when you're not even in the industry yet. I'm doing my best to get in, and I'm just being hammered left and right with no response. No, you're not qualified. It
Yeah.
was a nightmare. But then, like, the 201st application, a small little station in Casper, Wyoming, KTWO, the ABC affiliate, said, Billy, come on out here. We'll welcome you out. Let's run it up. And this is market like 194 or whatever, teeny tiny.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all, young 20 some year olds out of college that are literally just trying to get started. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea where I was really going, but I knew I had to get in it, I had to do it, and I had to send it. So I graduated college May of 2018, moved to Casper, Wyoming the week after, and without really knowing what I was getting myself into, it was the best. I can't even stress it more. The best 2.5 years of my entire life up to that point. Because, like I said, my path wasn't like this normal, seamless path. It was like I really never was like a true journalist. I was from the beginning more of like a host and a personality. I had the privilege of being the host of Good Morning Wyoming, which was like the Good Morning America of the state of Wyoming, where I was, yeah, anchoring news, right? Anchoring a little bit of news, but predominantly we're interviewing the coaches in the area, the teachers, the entrepreneurs, the restaurant owners, the nonprofit organizers, etc. We're making it like this fun, positive interview segment style show where me and my co-hosts were doing like trivia, we were doing like food challenges, we were doing fun bits in the parking lot. Like, we made it a show rather than a
Yeah.
newscast. And I could get way, 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 way deeper into it. But after 2.5 years, I knew that it was time to move on in the industry, right? Because you want to go to a bigger market, you want to make more money, you want to get in front of more people, you want to work your way up the ladder. This is now summer of 2020. My contract was about to end in the fall of 2020. And I'll put my hand up. It was my fault, the accountability, all the responsibility on me. I forced my hand taking my next position because I had developed this identity of like, I'm a news anchor, I'm a host, I'm a personality. I can't not have a job. And I knew I wasn't supposed to stay in Wyoming anymore. I knew I had to find another position elsewhere. And I wasn't patient. I wasn't willing to wait. I wasn't willing to go to the end of my contract. I wasn't willing to wait for maybe a better opportunity to come my way. I found this job in Eugene, Oregon for KMTR, NBC affiliate, and I knew it was like a news job. I knew it was like a journalism job where I would be the full-time morning anchor, but also I would have to do news reporting covering, government, criminal, all those types of stories. But knowing me, at the time, I had the biggest head in the world, not in like this cocky, arrogant way, but I just conquered this show. I conquered life in this small town. And I thought, I can go anywhere and just be Billy Floyd, and they're going to have to get on my level. Like, there's no way someone can tell me what to do. I'm going to go anywhere I want and do anything I want.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest awakening ever when I got to the station in Oregon. This was October of 2020, and I was a solo morning news anchor, just reading off a teleprompter, not interviewing everybody, not doing anything in that positivity world. And, the news director, the GM, they put me in a box of doing only hard news stuff, not anything like community or positivity related. And again, hand up, I was the one that thought I could get them to let me do what I wanted, but they were strict in their ways and they tried to make me a person that I'm not. And after, I was there October, November, December, January, February. I left in March. I was there for 5, 6 months. I got to the point where I was miserable. I was depleted. I was depressed. I was the lowest I've ever been. I had to leave the business 2021, came back to my hometown, upstate New York. And now, if you know me, it's all sports, positivity,
Right.
content, hosting, fun, things I love. So that's kind of my
Mhm.
news life in a shorter form explanation, but I'm happy to get into anything else you want to talk about. So that's really the spiel, and couldn't be more grateful for the process, even though it was a really rough ending. But again, my fault. I made the decisions. I got to live with it. I learned from it, and here I am now.
But I think it all goes back to accountability, right? Like I think there is certain things that we can go into every market. Like I do the same with like my Kentucky market, right? I wanted to make that jump, but I had just gotten married or I was about to get married and I was in this really terrible marriage and I was doing the best I could in a station that required 150% of myself, which is what I was giving in Louisiana. But I could only in this marriage and trying to juggle that and trying to juggle this news career give 100% of myself. And that was not cutting it. And so I knew that like that was the struggle that I was facing in Kentucky as well, right? Where it's like, I'm giving you everything you need. I can't give you more. I can give you exactly what you're asking from me, but I can't give you my weekends and this and that and then extra time. Like it just, I couldn't, like in the situation I was in. And so again, I think that it's all about owning it, right? And every market has taught me something different. When I left, I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do and I didn't know who I was, right? And I didn't know, like I said, Kentucky, I left. I was kind of 3 months into this Albany position. I left that and I said, nope, but I'm staying here because I've got a lease. I don't know what's next. And when me and you kind of connected, it was another point in my life where I said, I don't know what the next steps hold. And that was a trying time. It was like 7, 8 months of me being out there and boy, Albany is cold,
Mhm.
much colder than anywhere else I've lived in. So it was like gloomy and dark and it was cold and my mental health was already struggling. And I started a mental health podcast where I was talking about other people's mental health and I would look in the mirror and I couldn't recognize myself. And so it was like, it was a tough, tough season of my life. I'm thankful that people like yourself came in and through your own yuck of the news experience, you still came in with so much light and just grace and were able to kind of guide me on certain things that I needed help in.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about is just being there for people that need the support and being there for yourself as well. Like, I can totally relate to just being at my lowest point when I was in Eugene, Oregon, because I had just moved away from all of these incredible people. I was in the greatest romantic relationship I've ever experienced in my life. I was still so far away, even further away now from all my friends and family members back home. It was raining every single day because that's what happens in the Pacific West. And I didn't really know
Yeah.
that until I was there. Shows who we really are when you take that leap of faith and you choose an uncertain path. Like what you just said about how I don't know what else I can do beyond news. Like, is there even anything for me? Like, what is even a possibility? Like, that was my mindset for the few months before I ended up leaving the industry because all I had known for almost 3 years was being an on air personality, telling stories, communicating, connecting with people, connecting with guests, and like to leave that all behind. it was like the scariest thought I could ever imagine, but there was something in me that knew, like, look, still so young. At the time, I was 24 going on 25. I think so often in this world, we're so expected to have our career and our whole path completely locked in by at least 24, like 2 years after you graduate college. And if you don't do that, you're an ultimate failure.
Right.
Calling you a failure. Them, right? They are. Who cares what they think? If I'm 24, about to be 25, and I have to move home, live at my parents' house again, start all over from scratch, but I know that's what I have to do. How is that a fail? How is that a flop? How is that embarrassing when I know that's what it's going to take for me to realign myself with what I want to do, realign myself with who I am and who I want to be? And that was just a no brainer. And I think nowadays, a lot of the time, people are just set and they settle. And okay, this is my girlfriend or boyfriend that I've had for the past 3 years. We're miserable. We barely touch each other. We don't talk like we used to. And I think about other people all the time. But yep, we've been together for 3 years and we have all these memories and like they know my family.
Right.
I have to marry them. I have to be with them. Or job for 3 years and like it pays the bills and like this is what I'm known for. This is what I do. But you're daydreaming about being an entrepreneur. You're daydreaming about that other field. You're daydreaming about like really being yourself and sending it, right? A lot of people just kind of like succumb to the fact like, this is my life. This is what it is. This is what I have to do. This is what I do. Might as well just ride it all to the end. Like what we have decades upon decades of living beyond this very moment. How can you just settle in what you think is just, I have to do this? So people like us, we take the leap, we send it, we make moves. They can watch, they can judge, they can talk. It doesn't matter. You're not living my life. You don't have my soul. You're not in my shoes. I'm doing what I have to do to be the best version of myself. And when I see someone like yourself or others that clearly get it, that clearly want the same thing out of life, which is ultimate domination, fulfilling out our destinies, absolute no question to lend a hand, reach out, make the connection, start the conversation. And I think we cross paths at a very respectable and aligned time. And we're just very much still getting started, even though that was 4 years ago. And again,
Yeah.
I would never go back. I would never do anything different. I would never be like, oh, I wish I stayed in Wyoming or I wish I waited it out. And, maybe I would have gotten a sick job in New York City or Miami. Like, you don't know that. You know what actually happened. So my life happened how it did, super young. You're still super young. And I think the best is yet to come. And if I thought otherwise, then the worst would be to come. But I think and I believe and I know the best is to come because I took the risks. I'm putting in the work. They watch, they talk, they spread my name, they spread what I'm doing. Real ones connect, we grow. The phonies, the whatevers, the haters, you can be miserable in your
They
world.
fall
Yeah,
off.
you've been gone. You're roadkill on the side of
Yeah.
the road, and I'm steaming past you, and I'm doing it alongside other like-minded dogs, and I have nothing else but just on me, and that's kind of the vibe.
There is this sense of being warped when you're in the news industry, right? I think you said it so well that like that first market kind of grooms you into like this is like we got this, we're so great, we were like family, right? I had the same thing in my first market in Louisiana. Then you go on into a bigger market or you go on into another station and it's the complete opposite. But I think in the industry for so long what was like beaten into us almost was like if you leave you just didn't cut it, you weren't meant for news, or like it wasn't it's and it was never like no, this just wasn't meant for me. Like I remember when I had an opportunity to interview for a third time with Atlanta. So now that would have been a top 10 market, right? That's exactly what I was going for. But mind you, I had just moved from Louisiana to Kentucky and I had already interviewed with them. They had passed up on me a couple of months prior. This was in a really, really bad time for me, right? And I remember my news director kept pushing and she's like, "You should take this job in Atlanta." And I said to her, "I'm not. I can't because one, financially right now, I'm not stable enough to do that. And two, it's I can't make a jump that big where there's that many eyes on me when I have so much stuff going on behind the scenes. I just it was not the right time." And she was so mad at me for it, you know? And I'm like, if it's not a door for me, then it will never open. And if it is for me, then whether it's today or 3 years from now, that door will open for me regardless. Like, there is no way that if something's not for me, it's going to open. It's not, you know, like those things will always fall off and they will always fall apart. But if they are meant for me, then whether it's now or in a few years from now, those doors will open and they will never, like you were saying, like, oh, if I had stayed in Casper or Eugene or this, it doesn't matter. If those places and those opportunities are meant to come back around, they will. And they're going to come back in a way that you would have never expected them to come back around.
You're aligned with what you're on and who you are and what you know needs to get done. Like you were talking about with the doors, the doors are going to open for you, and what's meant for you won't miss you. I truly believe that if you're working some job, to go back to what I was saying before, if you're working a certain job or you're in this certain relationship and like you're not doing anything about it and it's just like weighing you down and killing you, those doors will not open. They will never open. You'll never even see the door handle. You'll never get a chance to even witness the opportunity of that door. But if you're taking the leaps, you're going the extra mile to make things happen, you're taking the risks. Maybe you're checking your ego at the door and you're going to leave your news position, which is obviously like in the highest regard of positions, to work at Starbucks. Not that there's anything wrong with working at a Starbucks, but clearly it's a much different career change. If you're willing to leave your ego behind and say, okay, maybe my identity, who I am as a reporter or whatever, anymore, and I'm going to refigure out my life and take a job that's going to let me make money while I'm exploring the other ideas and the other visuals that I have, like, then those doors are going to open. You're going to be knocking on doors left and right, and eventually the right one is going to open. So it's great that you were able to take those risks to set yourself up for where you're at right now. And truthfully, for me, I understand that the news industry is definitely a very challenging industry to work in, but I love television and I love hosting and I love not just like the idea of being on TV because like, oh, I'm on TV and like it makes me feel cool and good. Like it's not about that. It's just I love being on TV because you have the platform to really impact people.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to bring on guests and talk to them. They can share their story. You can go into restaurants, you can go into businesses and highlight the great things that our community members are doing. And that's what I love about local news. That's what I love about being a storyteller and someone that's a host. And when I wasn't able to do that at my station in Eugene, Oregon, that's where I felt absolutely annihilated and destroyed. And when I was in Wyoming, that's where I felt the most alive because even though, yeah, the hours were crazy and you're running around all the time, oh, I lived for it.
I
My
know.
alarm went off at 12 a.m. every single day. I would get to the station by 1:30 a.m. I would produce a morning show from like 1:30 or whatever till 5. Then we're on the air. And then after the show's over around 7, 7:30, and we're doing cut-ins and whatnot, that's where I'm then hopping on the phone, calling guests, hey, come on tomorrow, come on next week, come on in a month. Then taking a drive and going to do an interview with someone else for like a story that is going to air in a week. That is the stuff that I loved doing. I didn't care how long it took to get the job done. I didn't care how much I was running around. I lived for it. I loved it. It was incredible. But the side of news where it's more like, political, the government stuff, the criminal stuff, again, not to say that that's not important and not to say like, oh, it's terrible. It's just not my cup of tea and it doesn't fulfill me. And I could say the same thing, like, if I had to be a banker or something, I would not you need bankers, right? You need
But
people
it's
that
just not a
are
job for
bankers.
you.
Right, you need people that are accountants, you need people that do all these amazing things to help our world thrive, but that doesn't allow me to thrive. That's not a position for me. I've always been wanting to just, like, get in front of people like I did in Casper, talk to them, interview them, play games with them, create content with them, do video stuff with them, make a positive difference in that way, and as much as I loved what I did in Wyoming, I knew it wasn't gonna be this thing that could last forever because it's a small market, right? You can't make a living out there for a whole career. Had to take a leap, go to Oregon to realize, like, okay, maybe my path isn't as like a newscaster, but again, I want to be a television personality. I want to be a stadium host, which I am right now. I want to be a creator that is a personality that makes a community better. And I wouldn't be where I am today doing the things that I'm doing. Not to say like, oh, I made it and I have arrived and I am the Billy Floyd I've always dreamed of being. I'm still very much on the way, but I wouldn't be able to figure out who I really want to become if I didn't absolutely flop and fail Gene, Oregon. I needed that experience and I needed the experience in Wyoming to allow me to know, okay, I love what I do in Wyoming. No, I don't want to do what I did in Oregon. Let me see if I can do what I want to do from a personal standpoint with what I learned in Wyoming and eventually to get back on TV, to get back with a network or a station. Like that's a dream for me. And I'm working towards potentially aligning something. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know when it's going to come, but it could be something way different than what I'm shooting for. But I know I'm shooting for something. I'm working towards something. And like you said, if you're putting everything into it, it's not gonna miss you. The door's gonna open. We're gonna be right there to walk through.
I think I want to reiterate, I wasn't looking for the job in Vegas, right? The job in Vegas found me. It was the same thing in even my TV news career. I did not go to school for broadcasting. I did not go looking for some of these things. Some of these things found me and I just kept saying yes, no matter how uncomfortable I was, no matter how much, we talk about it with Joe Vasquez, who was my mentor in San Francisco. I said, Joe, I was terrified of like public speaking. And then you were like, let's come into the field and I'll show you how to stand in front of a camera. And I was like, what? No, like, what are you talking about? And then, but it's saying yes to these things that are uncomfortable and just continuing to go to do them. It was also never about being on TV. It was, I saw the impact that we were having. I saw how much good we can do. And I know that people are very split on news right now and they're very 50-50. The fake news movement is very much a real thing out there and people hate the news. And that's fine. But I think if you've ever watched your local news, then we are the people in your community. We are inundated with the same issues, with the same problems. We're experiencing the same things that you are. And so most of the time, what we're trying to do is either spotlight, like you said, a business that needs some help, or we're trying to get somebody's GoFundMe off the ground because something happened and they have a great story. And we are so community driven that I think if people were able to put their pride aside, they would see that that's what we're trying to do in local news. Again, it's not for the weak to be in the news, but it's definitely not for the weak to be in entrepreneurship either,
Yeah, when
as
you're
you
in
know that.
entrepreneurship, it's literally just like you, your ideas, and you just have to make it happen.
Yeah.
And what I've learned about doing things my own way is, there literally is no blueprint and there's no guide of like this is how you do your thing. This is how you make things happen. It's literally you have an idea, you go make it happen, you record it, you film it, you reach out to someone, and then you just have to be relentless with sharing it, posting it, putting it out there. And I think a lot of people they can't even imagine the thought of like potentially creating something, putting something out there, and then now it might not be perfect or it might not get the views you're looking for. It might not bring in the money that you're expecting, but you have to leave all these expectations out of the picture. You have to just focus on what you're actually passionate about and what you want to do. Like I have heard from multiple people like I mean I'm not going to call out any names here, but like I know people that have ideas, but there's this mentality of like This is the dumbest thing ever. The worst mentality I think to ever have is the perfectionism mentality. I'm a perfectionist. That is the lamest cop out of all time when it comes to you not pursuing what you want to do. People who claim that they are a perfectionist, they don't make things happen because they fear that it might not be perfect. And if it's not perfect, failure. You have to leave that out of your visual, out of your life, out of your mentality overall, because this is the truth about it. When you're really about to like break it down, like if I put everything into a video I want to make or a segment that I want to do at an arena, if I put everything into it, if I put all of Billy Floyd into it, I know it's going to be incredible. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. I know already it's not going to be perfect because nothing's perfect, but it's going to be something that I authentically brought into the world. And I make that stuff happen all the time. But if you're a perfectionist, your mentality is okay, if I put my life into something, if I put everything into this project, this video, this whatever, there's a chance it won't be perfect. And if it's not perfect, what was the point of putting in all this effort if it's not going to be this immaculate thing that I envisioned? So then that person will be like, not worth putting in the time, not worth putting in the effort, not even going to do it. And now this idea just dies in their head and they can say all they want. You could say all you want, like I'm cool with it. Like, no. That person is not cool with it. Every time I sit on an idea, every time I just swallow it up and don't do anything, I can't sleep. I can't focus on other things. My anxiety runs through the roof. I can't be present for shit. All I'm thinking about is that idea. And if you stack up those ideas that you're not executing on, that's how your anxiety takes over your life. That's how you become the most
Welcome to
that's how
depression.
you become depressed.
Yeah.
That's literally how you become a miserable, judgmental hater is you having these ideas, not doing them, and then you face the harsh reality of watching all these other people executing your exact ideas.
Right.
And now you hate them. Then you hate yourself. Then you hate the world. Then everything is miserable. Where if you just said, you know what, screw my perfectionism, I'm going to make something authentically me, let it be what it is. That's when you realize, whoa, like maybe it wasn't the most perfect video, but like that was incredible. And it just helped so many people because kids saw it, family saw it, all my friends saw it, all these people that follow me saw it. And now they love it. They want to see more. They're inspired to then try recording a podcast, try recording a video, getting on a stage, do whatever. You can inspire and change lives by putting out your non perfect ideas, but you're not going to do anything become a hater and a negative Nancy and a flat out loser if you just sit there watching other people live your dreams and you're on the sidelines
Yeah.
talking that smack while people like us, I'm the man, you're the woman in the arena, getting after it, facing the criticism, making things happen. So I know I just kind of went off right there,
No,
but
but I
like that's
love it.
literally how
Like,
you
go
become
off,
depressed.
go off,
That
go
you
off.
literally ruin your own life
You do.
sitting on these ideas because you're too afraid that they won't be perfect when in reality nothing's perfect. You just send it and then you learn along the way. Oh, I was really good at that. Oh, that's really fun. Oh, that helped this group of kids. This helped this generation. Then you have a whole new world
Yeah.
of impact right in front of you. And then you're killing it. You're doing your thing and you're going up. And that's that.
You know, I will go back to the perfectionist mindset because I am very much a perfectionist, right? And so I want things to go right. I'm type A all the way through. And I have a hard time. I think that's where I would have a hard time with news because in news, nothing goes right. Everything goes wrong. And I think the difference between, like you said, I think you said it so well though, Billy, you know, you went off, but you said it so well. If you don't start somewhere, you're never going to do anything. And so for me, it was just taking the product I did and being proud of what I put out there, and then dissecting it to the gills and saying, how can I make it better? And, listen, I would go back into my Louisiana stuff and I was like, I ate that. That was great. That was amazing. That was the best stuff I've produced. And I go back to some of that and I'm like, oh, girl, oh, girl, we could have used some help on that. That shooting, your video was blue. This wasn't aligned. That was out of focus. This wasn't good. But now I can go back and see that. It's the reps, it's the repetition, and it's going back and saying, I'm okay with failing as long as I'm not sitting still. Because if you're sitting still, that's where everything ends.
Exactly. And anytime that you quote unquote like fail, like when you do something and it doesn't work out the way that you wanted it to, like you're still moving forward. Like anybody that's taking action, that alleviates the anxiety you're sitting there with. That's something I say all the time. Me and my best friends, we say the same thing over and over again to remind ourselves action alleviates anxiety. And anytime we've taken the leap to film something, make a video, start some kind of business venture, do something artistically, etc. Even if it didn't work out how we envisioned it to, and like, yeah, maybe it's a failure or whatever, like, no, it wasn't. It was a shot that we willingly took. We were very much in on it, and we did what we could to make it happen. There's a great quote. I don't know if I'm going to get it 100% right, but basketball, in my opinion, I'm a huge basketball guy. I'm a big sports guy, and I truly believe that sports and basketball is the best metaphor for life. And an NBA player who's retired now, his name is Dion Waiters. He said one time, I'd rather go 0 for 19 from the field than 0 for 9 from the field, because if I went 0 for 9, that means I stopped shooting. And that is the mentality that I always try to live with, is like, even if things aren't clicking, even if like you're not seeing like that grand success that you've been gunning for, like every shot and every miss and every quote unquote failed attempt is not actually a failed attempt
No,
or a miss. It's a great shot. You put everything into it and then you move on to the next shot. But like we were talking about with the perfectionists, like obviously when it comes to being a person that wants to create great stuff, yes, I always want it to be as great as it could possibly be. And yes, I get the perfectionism mindset to a degree where like it's not like I'm just going into an arena or going into a studio and filming a video and being like, ah, screw it. Like I'm just gonna riff it one time and whatever it
right.
is, I'm just gonna post it. No, like I'm tactically going all in on making it great. Live with that true perfectionism mentality. You're never going to take a single shot because your whole life is just you being perfect at everything, which means you're not even challenging yourself. You're not even like going the extra distance to like see what you're really made of. Like, can you actually do something that is beyond just like your normal routine? And it's awesome to hear your side of the story where, like, for a fact you were in a field that you loved so much. It was something that gave you all this fulfillment, but then you got to a point where it didn't anymore. And you could put news as the example. You could do anything as the example. Whatever that thing is, whether it's a career, like we keep going back to the relationship or whatever, once something becomes more negative than positive, that's when you know it's time to go. Whatever you're doing, whether it is that relationship or a job or whatever, there's always negatives to literally everything. You could have the most perfect situation ever, but there's still one or two or a few negatives. But as soon as the negatives start to outweigh the positives, and now what used to fuel you is now draining you, that's when it's time to move on. So you made the right move for yourself. I continue to do my best to make the right moves for me. I'm the only one who truly can judge myself. I'm the only one that can reflect on what I'm doing and be like, okay, you're doing this great. You got to be better at this. This is awesome. This needs work. And if you can just really, it's so much easier said than done. And I can't convince you otherwise. But if you really just stay 100% on it with just you and your path, the success is inevitable, as you know.
I was such a newsie, but I was always a different kind of newsie because unlike a lot of people who were like, oh, everybody chased after the names and the people that they knew, the contacts, I was always just in the community. I didn't care what my competition was doing. I was making sure that my stories were done. I was making sure that the things that I needed to get done were done. And I think as long as you're not constantly inundated with, those voices around of like, you said it so well, right? Like, what is this person thinking? What is that person thinking? Oh, this person's going to judge me for that. Who cares? Let them judge. They don't know your story. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know how many sacrifices you had to make to kind of get to this point. Just keep going and keep putting that one foot in front of the other. Create your own little bubble. Like get the mentors that you need around you, get the people that you need that speak life into you and continue going forward. Because if I had stopped in Louisiana when people were telling me to stop, I would have never made a career out of this. And I'm thankful for the people that kept speaking life into me, even when I was like, I can't do this. This is not a job for me. And they're like, no, you don't have to be the best newscaster. You don't have to be the best reporter. You don't have to be the best anchor, but you do have to be the best at showing up. And I was. I never let that, like, I just kept showing up no matter how many times I got down, whether I fell into a ditch or not. I still got up there, on live TV. Like, you keep getting up. That's it. Keep it one foot in front of the other. I had a friend here in Vegas who one time said, Paulina, no matter how many times they try to screw you over, she's like, you're like a cockroach. You just keep coming back. And I was like, because what are you going to do? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, lay down and die? Like, that's the only other
Mhm.
option. I still have so much more of this life to live. If the only other option is to do what my dad did, that doesn't seem like the option I want, Like I've lived that path. Thank you, but no thank you. I rather keep fighting. I rather keep seeing what else is out there. And every time I do, doors open and something new comes up. And then another opportunity opens up. And that's the way I'm gonna keep living, like a damn cockroach that doesn't die. That's it.
And you learn through those failures, like,
You do.
we're all so afraid of failing and die. Like, unless you're literally, like, jumping out of planes and, like, riding, like, motorcycles, like, wheelie and, like, standing on cars and, like, playing in traffic, like, you're not going to die. Like, if you get on television or you get on a microphone or you're in public reporting on something and, like, you flub up and it doesn't go the right way and it's, like, ultimate embarrassment, ultimate failure, ultimate cringe, your pants fall down, whatever, like, you're not dead. Like, you are going to have life in you to keep going. So it's like, as long as you have a pulse and as long as you are able to wake up the next day and eat breakfast, go to the gym, and then get to work, you are very much still in the game. Like, unless you're going to die, what is the sense of being afraid of failing? I think so often people are like, I can't get past embarrassment. But I always ask people, okay, on June 18th of 2025, and they're like, exactly. You don't remember. You don't even know what you did. You forgot about the failure. It's so in the rear view mirror that, like, who even cares? Like, and if you don't even remember, think about the people that judged you for whatever. It's not even in their brain anymore. So it's like we're not doing stuff because we're afraid of our own embarrassment and being embarrassed in front of other people. But in 2 seconds, it's all forgotten about. You're not dead. You still can keep going. It makes no sense to me. I understand that people are afraid of failure and rejection. That's the number one fear that every human is afraid of is rejection and failure. 100%. You can't debate me on that. Maybe death, obviously, but you can't debate number one fear in the world is rejection and failure.
Yeah.
But people don't realize, like, if you just fail a couple times, look dumb a couple times, I have life, isn't over, and it just moves the needle.
If we think about failure, right, or we think about these crazy billionaires or people who've made it in life or people who, you know, made these like wild inventions, how many times did people look at them and say, you are crazy? Do you really think you're going to do something with this? And They did, and they persisted, and they failed, and they got back up, and they continued. And I said this to you right before we were recording a couple of weeks ago, when we were kind of scheduling this, we were talking about failure and wins. And I said, the only difference between somebody who wins and fails is that the person who failed stopped where they were, and the person who won took that failure and kept going. That's it. That's it. You didn't let that failure stop you. Like you just kept showing up. You just kept doing it. Like you said, you get up, you go to the gym, you have your breakfast, and you do it all over again. And you try and you try and you get better. And if it's not your path, then it's not your path. Then you start making adjustments. But it's the fact that you can't stop putting one foot in front of the other, because eventually that
Mhm.
path will reveal itself. And maybe you are the only one creating something that's new and you don't have that support system. And that's okay too, because that's how the world gets all these great inventions. We need people like that. We need people who are not afraid to say, I'm okay with failing and I'm okay with looking a little crazy and a little weird and out of the box, and just continue and persist and do what you were doing. And it will eventually open doors that you never expected.
That's why I'm so grateful I went to Wyoming when I graduated college, because not that people, like all my best friends and all my family members, they're the most supportive and kind and caring people. But like, you know how it is. Like if you're doing stuff that's like not normal to these people, maybe all of a sudden like you just start, taking dance classes, and all your friends and all your family members, they don't know you as a dancer. So when you're doing dance classes, they're like, Floyd, what are you
This is
doing
weird.
dancing? Like, what is, you don't dance. Like, that's crazy. You won't dance because you know that that's probably the reaction. So when I went to Wyoming, it's me on this island with all these new people. I'm in front of a whole new audience. I can do whatever I want. No one's going to like look at me weird for trying different things, because like they don't know who I actually am. Like if I'm talking this way or doing things this way, they're probably just like, "Oh, I guess that's just what Billy does, and like that's who he is." So putting myself in that position, being away from all these people that I've known forever, that opened the door for me to be like, whoa, like I can really try anything. I can say anything at the station. I can do anything I want in the community. And like, that's just me putting in reps, failing, trying different things, and like seeing what I'm really made of and seeing like what I'm capable of. So after doing that for 2.5 years in Wyoming, and then, 5 or so months, 6 months in Oregon, coming back to the area, for 3 years, I've been like out there, being more outspoken, being more in tune with myself, trying these different ventures, becoming a whole different version of myself. Then now I'm not afraid to break out and be me in front of all of these people that I've known for so long. But I think, that's the advantage. That's one of the biggest advantages in news, is like you basically have to leave your hometown and go to some random city or state that you've never been to or even heard of to get your career started. So being in news, it allowed me to do all these different things, and now I'm back here and I'm not afraid to like be the Billy that I've became, where I think people who stay in their hometown, or they stay in their certain friend groups, or they're around the same people forever, they're going to be less willing to try different things because their people don't know them as the person that branches out and tries these other activities. You know what I mean? So I'm
I
so
do
grateful for
actually.
news on that front. It makes the biggest difference ever, and I would not be who I am if I didn't uproot everything, send it, and learn how to actually be myself without any fear of judgment. And I still, trust me, I get judged probably more than anybody that you know personally, and that's just what it is, but you block it out.
Keep going. When I was leaving New York and going to California, now I didn't have a job lined up in California. I was not going to be in news, and so that found me in California. And I remember when I was telling my best friend then that I was moving, and she was like, "You're going to hate it. You're going to be far from home. You're going to be homesick and all these things." And my mind was, Homesick to what? I just experienced the worst tragedy of my life with my dad dying. I want to be so far away from anybody who knows anything about me. I want to restart in a city that knows nothing about me. And that's what I did, And then I remember certain people when I started to, when I was in news and I had great people around me, reporters who were doing this, and they said, come out into the field and shadow us. And they said, do you really think you're going to be on TV? Do you really think you're going to be a TV news anchor? Well, fuck yeah, I am. And now I'm a two-time Emmy Award winning journalist, biatches. Like, yeah, that is what you get when you do not stop and you don't listen to those people. Because I think it goes back to what you said so well. Those people sometimes they speak from their own fears and their own limitations. They speak from the things that they were not able to pursue because they were too afraid. They didn't take that chance. And when they did it, it failed and they didn't keep going and trying to see where else this could take them. They just kind of let it die. And so do not take those people's opinions as your own, because if you do, you will never grow. So make sure, like you said, to lock in to people, whether it's I'm fully in support of what you just said. Moving out of your own state, of your own hometown, go out there, meet new people, be so gosh dang uncomfortable that all you have to do is grow.
It's the realest of the real, and sometimes it stinks because you hit it on the head with, people projecting their fears onto you, and when it's people that love you, when it's people that are close to you, not always like like, they're just being negative and they're just, like, being, like, afraid, but, like, they love you so much that sometimes they are just scared for you because like, the thought of them doing what you're about to do, that freaks them out so much that now it's leaking onto you in this way where, like, it's not negative in, like, this mean, derogatory way, but it is still negative because, like, it's in this, like, comforting, settling, "Oh, like, are you sure about that?" type of way, which is still not good, and again, it's coming from a good place, but you just have to remove yourself from that, and it's tough when that is, like, your community or that's, like, your network, so, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to move away from that all out of love, like, not because, like, "Oh, screw everybody, I gotta go do my own thing." It's like, no, like, "Hey,
No,
I love
don't run
you,
away
you're
from your
here."
problems like I did. Don't do that. Don't run away from your problems. But
Yeah, no running away from anything, but more of just like, "Hey, I see this for me. Let me go do this, and let me go live how I wanna live." And you are in your hometown, you have to go so out of your way to get uncomfortable, like, you have to do something pretty wild to be uncomfortable because if you're just in your hometown, you're just doing everything that you know, and it's just like the most routine thing ever. But when you move to wherever it is, Kentucky or Wyoming or Las Vegas or whatever, Oregon, your whole life is just constant discomfort because you're just in a whole new world, in a whole new community, in a whole new everything. So just walking out the door, you're automatically uncomfortable because you don't know where you are, you don't know what's happening, you don't know who these people are. And I think a lot of people don't want to experience that because it doesn't work. You got to come back home, you got to try something else. At the end of the day, like when I first left news, and when I got into, content creation in 2021, when I got into like my path of like figuring out who I am, I knew so much information about myself and what I developed when it comes to like the positive mindset, being relentless, failing, doing what you want to do, that I really became obsessed with like trying to like help other people understand that. And I made a lot of videos and I did a lot of content about like mindset and things you could do to be better, how to elevate. And as passionate as I am about that, I learned after a long time of doing it, honestly, that there's nothing more draining than trying to like instill something into someone. If you just really just take a step back and live through what you're learning and apply it for your own good, you lead by example. You lead the way that you know you're supposed to be, and the real ones, they'll connect, they'll follow along, they'll come to you, they'll give you doors, they'll open them, they'll walk through with you. I was applying for different jobs or just like looking at different jobs across the country for years and years since I left, but nothing ever clicked. Nothing ever made sense. I got in contact with WTEN right here in the Albany area, and I have some great connections over there. Love the news director, love the people that are involved with the whole program. And it just worked out that there was an opening for me to host a segment called Be Our Guest that airs once a week on Thursday mornings. And it's literally right up my alley and
That has
literally
your
what I did
name all over it.
it's perfect. Like we literally just bring on a hardworking, entrepreneurial, mindseted business owner that has this great restaurant. They bring in their food. We talk about what they offer. We talk about what they brought in. We talk about their history a little bit. And then we have this great 3 to 5 minute product that airs for everybody to see, everybody in the community. And it's a thing of beauty. I don't have to report on anything that doesn't fill my cup. I'm solely talking to people that are aligned with me. I'm doing it with a sales team and a news team that is like all in, like, hey, this Billy guy, he loves it. Let him do his thing. And it's just a really positive connection. And it's just a really meaningful experience. And who knows what it's going to turn into? I have no idea what could come of this, but I do know that I'm putting everything I got into this one segment that I have. And I will be ready for any blessing that comes my way. And that's what I've been doing since I've gotten this awesome little mini position with News 10, which is my favorite place to be a part of. I'm so grateful for the people that have welcomed me. I'm so grateful for the people that I've been able to meet. I know we're wrapping things up and I know that we're kind of like at the end here, but there's this really great story that I can share. I'll try to make it as quick as I can. But when I was leaving news industry in Oregon, it was a really tough decision. The higher ups, the general manager, the news director, rightfully so, they were giving me a really hard time because they wanted me there and I didn't want to be there and I broke my contract. So rightfully so, they're like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you can't, you're like, what the heck? So they're giving me a really challenging time and it was hard. And one of the HR women that worked for the station, she just randomly reached out and was like, hey, Billy, I know that they're giving you a really tough time with this whole process. I got a story for you. So give me a call and, let's hop on the phone. I'm like, I'll take anything right now. I don't like, I'll take any
Yeah.
positivity. I'll take any story. Like, screw it. We hop on the phone and she tells me this story of how when she graduated college, like a decade or whatever ago, her and her family went to the Cayman Islands and they had this great experience where they went on this family graduation trip. She just graduated college. And day one, she's looking for her favorite drink, which is a cup of mocha. She loves like the milk and coffee mixture, mocha, whatever. But they didn't have any mocha on the island. And immediately she's like, oh my God, like imagine if I like moved here and I like opened up this like mocha stand. Like there's no mocha on this island. What if I did this? And she was telling me that she is a culinary mind. She loves cooking, she loves baking, she loves the idea of catering, she loves the restaurant industry, but she had went to school for like advertising and like sales and like just a field that's nothing to do with food. So she was like, wow, this could be cool if I just like came here and did this. So she talks to her family and is like, guys, like I just had this sick idea. And she's like, a 22-year-old kid at the time, on the phone with me. She's probably like in her 40s. And she says to her family, oh my God, like imagine if I moved here, I could open up my own mocha stand. I have the idea. I know what I could do. This would be sick. And her family, unfortunately, was like, you know what? That's a little crazy. Don't you think? Like you just
Yeah.
graduated with this degree, you got to get a job where you have your degree and let's be realistic. Let's be realistic here. So this poor girl, 22 years old, listening to her family, she doesn't know any better. I have to listen to my family. That's what I've done my whole life. She doesn't pursue the mocha stand. She goes back and she gets into human resources. And again, there's nothing wrong with any job in the world. The only thing that's wrong with a specific job is if you're doing a job that you do not love and it's not making you better and it's not making you feel fulfilled. So she gets into HR, she gets into this path. Yes. Now, a few years down the line, one of her gal pals gives her a ring and is like, hey, my friends, they have this catering company. They're celebrating the anniversary of their business. They're having this giant party at their house. They're catering the event themselves. It's a huge deal. They told me I can bring anybody I want. I know that you love the culinary arts. I know that you love the industry of restaurant owning and whatever. Come with me. Maybe you can meet them. I'm sure you'll be inspired. Food's going to be good. We'll have a great time. No brainer. She's like, yeah, let's go. We're sending it. So the two girls, they go to this house,
Uh-huh.
beautiful mansion-esque house. The woman that I'm on the phone with telling me the story, she, in that moment, she sees the wife, the duo that owns this catering company. They own the house, they own their business, whatever. It's this husband and wife, it's their house, it's their party. She sees the wife. She's like, I got to go talk to her. So she goes up to the wife and she's like, oh my God, your food is amazing. Your husband, you guys are a beautiful couple. The house is phenomenal. Way, way back, I wanted to get into, potentially having my own restaurant. I wanted to have my own company. I love food. I love baking. I love cooking. Really would love to know like how you got started. Like, what was your story? Like, how did you do it? And the wife, of course, like we talked about, one idea dies in your brain, it goes into the other. The wife says to the woman, well, you'll never believe it, but several years ago, my husband and I, we went to the Cayman Islands and we were on vacation and we wanted to get a cup of mocha. And we realized very quickly that there's no mocha that exists on this island. So we said, screw it. We're young. We have no other agenda. Let's move to the Cayman Islands. Let's start a mocha stand and let's see where it goes. And now, ever since then, we've been able to save enough money. We moved back to the States and now we built this empire and it's just been a dream. And now this poor woman sitting there blank, like, oh my God, I just had that idea. She didn't say this to the woman, but in her
Sure.
head, she's saying, I literally had the same idea. And now I have to watch someone else live my entire dream. So that whole story, when she told me that, like, I kinda, like, broke down crying thinking, like, "Oh my god," like, could you imagine having to watch someone else live your dream? So, the biggest advice to wrap up that story is if you have an idea to send it, if you have an idea to create something, if you have an idea to branch off, if you have an idea to take the leap, whether that's to get into news or leave the business, whatever, you just have to do it because there's a really high probability that if you don't execute on your idea, someone else is going to. You're going to have to watch other people live the life that you know you should be living. So that's the way I want to end everything. That's the way I want to send it off is you have the plan, you have the vision. If you sit on it, you're sitting on life and you're not going to live. And if you just do it, you make it happen. You don't have to share an unfortunate story like that and have that be your destiny. Your destiny should be your actions, your failures, your successes, and doing it with all the right people. So that's kind of how I feel everything should be wrapped up.
I'm so glad that you snuck that story in because I think it's a great way to wrap this up. It's a reminder to me, to yourself, and to anybody listening and watching. Don't snooze on your ideas because you never know where they're going to lead you. You may fail a couple of times along the way. Just get back up and keep going.
Absolutely.
Billy, what a great conversation. What a great episode. Thanks again for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me so many years ago in Albany. And thank you now for just imparting that same wisdom on to the next people who are listening and watching. So for that, that's a wrap on the Honey Pod for this episode. And we'll be right back here again next Thursday.